This is Jojo and Xander's podcast, episode 1. Hi. I guess. Okay, so, don't know, we've not done this before.
No.
We're trying something new. We're trying to create, I guess, a podcast, videocast, and I'm Xander.
I'm Jojo, hi.
And, yeah, we're filmmakers, we're a couple, and, we're basically gonna try making this thing once a week, I guess, is the plan. To have a bit of a discussion, stay creative.
Invite people as well.
Have conversations.
Yeah.
It's going to be very messy in the beginning while we kind of figure out the format and figure out what we want to do and how we're going to approach this. So we'll see. So some of you might have seen that we've been sharing a little bit of a kind of movie advent calendar, where we've been showing basically our university grad projects, which are proof of concept films. My film, The Gig.
And my film, The Red Hair Tie.
We can talk a little bit about kind of what we're planning with that. So, I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about your film first, and then I'll talk a little bit about my film, and then we can talk about kind of what we want to achieve with it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my film came, like Xander already said, through university. So I went to uni and we had to create a short film. Coming from dance, which is my background, it kind of fell naturally into that topic of something about dancing. So the character who this is based on is, the character who is in the film and who is kind of based on what my experience were in the dance industry and kind of how I experienced the world within the creative team of dancing. So through that we had to, write our scripts, and we got a lot of good guidelines to how to come up with the story, and that's kind of how that went. But then, unfortunately, when we were about to film all of those projects, COVID hit. So we had to stop everything when everyone went online. And then through that, we kind of had to, we're given the opportunity to do it on our own pace, which was hard because you didn't get that support anymore from university. But we pulled it off. We actually filmed it around Christmas time. But 2020, so now 5 years ago, I think, which is a long time ago. And we just try to pull it all together and do everything online with casting and choreography learning. And then everyone got together for the filming, of course, like the mask situation and all that stuff. We had to be very, very strict with that.
But so you mentioned choreography. For those who maybe don't know you and your background, talk a little bit about that. Because obviously people don't know what the film is because they haven't seen it, like you said, 5 years ago, and neither one of our films is out yet. So some people might have started figuring out that maybe the advent calendar is leading to some sort of premiere. Who knows? Wink, wink. Finally, so. Talk a little bit about like the choreography. What is your film? I mean, your background is dance, right? And the film was dance. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
My background is dancing. So when I was a teenager, I kind of was looking into getting a hobby. I didn't have any hobbies, and through my sisters, they were dancing at the time. I went to a performance from theirs, and I was just so amazed how beautiful and how much fun they had on stage. I was like, I kind of want that. I want that community feeling of being together on stage and doing something, even though it was nerve-wracking the first time I did it. But through that experience of watching my siblings do that, I was like, I want to try that. So I did. Through that, I fell in love with it. I basically went from once a week dancing to 5 times a week, literally straight away after 2 weeks. Doing all kinds of sorts of styles, and through that I went to study it myself rather than going through classic uni, finishing school like that. And then tried my best to get into the industry when I still lived in Berlin. And
how old were you when you started dancing?
I started with 14.
At 14?
Yes.
Okay.
So
And this was back in Germany where you're from. That's where you started to dance.
Exactly. So in Germany, in Stuttgart, and so it started with 14. Made really good friends. I had lovely friends through the dancing, and that's kind of how I fell in love with the art industry as well. Because I also always was interested in being on film or doing something with film,
Right.
but I never really knew how because it felt so far away from me. But because discovering dancing, and you do the music videos, you do choreographies on film, I kind of slowly got into that taste of that. And but through the struggles of making it in the dance world and doing all these auditions you have to do and getting rejected and all these things, I also kind of lost my path in that. Like I lost the way of loving dance just to do it for me rather than doing it. Yeah.
But also that kind of process of auditioning and being this kind of lonely, struggling artist, I think is kind of the topic and theme of both of our films. Yours, The Red Hair Tie, mine, the Gig. I'm going to kind of take over a little bit
Go for it.
here. So, you know, the background for my film for The Gig is kind of similar in a way to yours, but rather than it being dance, it's music, which was my first career. I started kind of playing music, as a little kid. Both my parents have a background in music. My dad, especially, you know, there's pictures of me as a tiny little baby sitting in my mom's lap playing the drums, which is my dad's main instrument, and then sitting with my dad with a tiny little guitar, playing guitar and doing stuff. And my mom put me in guitar lessons and drum lessons when I was a little kid in school. But it wasn't really until I became a teenager, also around the age of 13, 14, I was 13, and it kind of was when I started realizing that I was finding girls, and I was starting to find girls interesting, and realizing that girls found people that played music, they found them interesting.
Yes.
So I was like, I have a guitar somewhere in the back of my closet. So I started kind of picking up my guitar again, because in music class, because I'd had some lessons, I was able to do a little bit compared to people who had done nothing. And then I was like, oh, if I get good at this, then I could get... So I was just like... So then I just started practicing chords and playing guitar like every day. Every day after school, I'd just sit with my guitar. And it was kind of teaching myself and kind of like playing Green Day songs and covering songs and just doing what I could, and started a band with classmates and started playing, going, yeah, okay, the life of a rock star, that's the way forwards. And I can relate to kind of you with the kind of the finding a hobby, finding your way, and you know, that for me was also then what eventually led to be my journey into the film industry, because I went from music and touring and recording to then, like you mentioned with dancing, you started dancing in music videos, I made music videos.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first step then from music, and for you from dance, into film and film production. And then eventually when I was, you know, I acted in my own music video and for Hell House, which was our first single, and carried on making stuff. And then when I started making the transition into film, it was, you know, what is a short film but a music video with sound?
Yeah, and voice. Yeah.
Right. So then that was kind of my transition into film. And what I find interesting is that both of our films, the main characters, I mean, I play my main character, but your main character, so my main character is me. It's a fictional dramatization of me, but he even has my name, and the band in the film is Aaron Tolstoy. It is a fictional dramatization of me and my band and my experiences, combined with my screenwriter Reese, who was also a musician, and some of his things and things that we discussed and things that we would fit in. But what's interesting is your character is also based on you and your experiences.
Yeah, and that's kind of what that story led to. So through the struggle I had getting into the industry myself, getting recognition or some sort of performing skills whatsoever. I struggle a lot, and I lost the track of that, so I then just kind of felt like I couldn't make it because I just couldn't deal with the rejections and the not of getting the immediate yeses, which is in a way kind of like, if I look at someone now and I would give advice, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, right.
You have to accept that there
And that's
will
whether
be
you're
a
an
lot
actor, a
of
filmmaker,
no's.
dancer, whatever, anything that's
Exactly.
creative. I mean, even non-creative work, right? Like, you go to a regular job interview, you're not necessarily going to get that first job right away, necessarily.
Yeah. But you have such a thing in your brain where like, oh, but I can do this. I've been getting good compliments in that sense. And I'm like, oh, why am I not getting this recognition that I think I should get? And then through that, there's just a lot of, which I think in music is as well, there's a lot of competition.
Right.
Where if you're not really true with yourself, or if you're already struggling to come over those no's, then also getting those rejections of other people who might be like...
Well, also, it's like, art it's so subjective, right? Like, you're getting rejected by people who, based on their personal opinion.
Yeah.
Sure, there's a technical right way if you're playing something in the right key, or if you're dancing and you're hitting the right rhythm. But then, both you and I have realized that we work very much on feeling. Like, you've transitioned from more of the classical stuff to the more contemporary floor work, feeling, dancing that emotion and dancing very free, which is very much the equivalent of colouring outside the lines in terms of art, right? And it's the same for me with music. I was never the most... I still can't read music. I don't know music theory, but I go by feeling, and I would always surround myself by better people, who could then bring the ideas that I heard and saw in my head to life, which I think is also kind of how you and I both make films and made these films, made The Gig and made The Red Hair Tie. Because if we look at it, it's our history, it's our foundation, it's who we are, it's a small part, a kernel of our stories coming out in an artistic way, but that have only been able to come to life thanks to the people around us that we were able to bring in, that possess these skill sets to translate what are essentially just memories and images and sounds inside of your head, and feelings and emotions, and you're translating these just feelings and emotions into a story that becomes tangible, that people can understand, and to be able to formulate that in such a way where you can rally a team behind you that believe in what you believe and believe in the story that you have is worth telling, and get behind you and make it and turn it into a final film. And then to bring that back to what you were talking about, that kind of fear of rejection and building an audience, and I think that's kind of what's led us to where we are now. Yeah, it's like you finished your film 2020, I finished mine in 2022. Yeah. So you right at the beginning of the pandemic, myself right at the end of the pandemic. And then we've been busy doing lots of other things and figuring life out. But these films have kind of sat on hard drives for years, with people kind of, going, okay, the people that helped us and did things have all moved on, doing other things, and we've either worked with them again or we've lost touch or whatever. And even people who have supported the journey of having them made, I'm sure people are interested in seeing it, and maybe some people aren't, maybe they are. But I think what you and I have discussed previously is, at the end of the day, we put so much pressure on ourselves to make things that we want other people to enjoy, that we realize that we've gotten in our own way, and it's stopped us from creating for ourselves. And ultimately now we've come to this realization, or at least I have, don't let me speak for you, but this is based on conversations obviously that you and I have had previously, so, but that, okay, ultimately it's for ourselves. If a couple of people like it and support it, then great. But that's not the reason we made these projects or got into these areas from the beginning. The reason you got into dance was for yourself. The reason I got into music was for myself. The reason both you and I got into film was because we enjoy the art of that form of storytelling, and we're telling these stories for ourselves. And if there are people that can connect with that and relate to that, then wonderful and great. And if not, that's also okay.
Yeah, and it's also what I realized with Red Hair Tie, rather than not looking at the gig festival circuit, but looking at Red Hair Tie, I've only gotten into 2 or 3. I didn't pay a lot either. I was just not willing to put a lot of money into that festival circuit. But I think what I'm trying to say is that these films are made for us, and people, like you say, people may not like them or da 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 da. But also I feel like short form is such a tool to make something for you. It shouldn't be for other people, because you're trying to experiment, you're trying to figure out a story, and trying to figure out a character, a way of filming, da 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 da. Where a lot of people struggle to then feel like they made a bad film because the festivals don't pick it up.
Yeah,
But the festivals are just so for that. There's just one line or 2 or 3 that you can definitely hit for it. And I've made a wonderful short film with 2 directors that it's incredible short film, but it may have not gotten the recognition that we were hoping for, and it just...
Even though it has actually received quite a lot of recognition.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's something we can discuss in another episode. It would be cool to have them maybe on, and we can discuss that. That film, by the way, for people wondering, is Marriage Unplugged by 2 sisters called the Noyce Sisters, right?
Noyce Sisters, yeah.
From
it actually
Switzerland?
premiered, so it premiered actually on Wednesday, so if you want to check it out, do watch
cool.
it.
That's cool.
So it's online premiere now.
So that's interesting. They've kind of gone through a similar process, which is interesting as well. Releasing it publicly around the same time, so it's interesting that we're starting to kind of see kind of that pattern around us and stuff.
Yeah, but I think what I'm like, in that way, I want to just say, like, if you want to make a film, if you want to play around with a few shorts, just make them for you. Like, I also just hearing a lot about other big directors who we listen to interviews for. They always say it's like, yes, it's something to make money in. It's a business, film industry is a business, but at the end of the day, you are making it for yourself, because you're making something that you would want to watch. And if other people...
To be honest, any business should be that way as well. Like, some businesses, sure, it's about finding a problem that other people have and solving that problem. But with art, the problem that you're solving is feeding someone's soul. And how do you know what each individual soul that is so unique wants? I don't even think we as individuals know what our souls want. We know what we don't want. We know what we want once we see it. So, as a unique soul, you have stories to tell, and it's just about making stuff that's fun and finding the people that you enjoy making it with. That's something that both you and I have started discovering again recently, is just making our own things again. I've gotten into making this this action film that a bunch of my friends have been helping me with, that hopefully will be the kind of next thing that I'm focusing on, and we'll see where that kind of ends up. But like, sometimes you've got to kind of tie up the sack in a way, if that makes sense. Like, bring a chapter to a close so the next one can open. These have kind of been hanging in the air. But like you were mentioning, they've been in film festivals, so it's not like they've been just... I said earlier that they've just been sat on hard drives. That's not quite the case. They have been out in festivals, they've had festival runs, and quite long festival runs.
Yeah, the gig was quite long.
Yeah, but then obviously you and I have very different approaches. I think with my background with what I did with music, I spent far too much money and sent things out to festivals, and whereas you were a bit more selective, which is very much your personality as well. So although maybe you only got into 2 festivals, your festivals potentially are of a higher caliber, whereas I, maybe got into more festivals, but I also cast a much wider net, and there's festivals and there's festivals, but we have had some good times, actually, and managed to go to some good events and meet some good people through the festival runs. So that's a good point that you made, actually. So but now it's time for them to kind of start.
Yeah, I think also for you and I, because we've been discussing about the gig in Red Hat. When are we going to do this? When are we going to bring it out? Are we going to bring it out?
Yeah, we also had this idea of how we were going to do it with a live show and with the tour and combining it with a dance show and with the music show and having the band. But, you know, like, my band is spread out, you know, I've not even got all full-time members, and Kim, my bassist, he lives in Sweden, we live in the UK. You, that, like, figuring things out, coming out of a pandemic, coming out of, you know, figuring out how moving house and doing lots of different things. I interrupted you, what were you going to say?
It's just that it's good to put your work out there. I think that's what I'm trying to say, because I've been thinking about putting it out there. I have another short film that I did for my graduation, which is called To My Dying Mother, and it's a very short film, a very short film, and
like
I've also been struggling to figure out how, because you, in your heart, you're like, it deserves something bigger, it deserves something unique and but at the end of the day, if it's just sitting on a hard drive, no one is ever going to see it.
Yeah, sometimes you have these ideas, right, that are so grandiose and you know, like you were thinking with To My Dying Mother, like, oh, it has this environmental impact thing.
Yeah.
It could have such an impact. And what we were thinking about with our live show with the gig and with the Red Hair Tie, making a whole European tour and taking the band playing a show, the dance performance, showing the movies, having a talk, like, that's a great idea. That would have been wonderful, but it takes so much time, effort and resources to pull that together, and everyone has to come together at the right time, and sadly there were strikes and we were moving house, and you know, and eventually you just kind of got to go, okay, the time wasn't right, but the time has passed, so now you just kind of have to accept it, let it go out. And it's almost like, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I have parents, and I've had them say these types of things, and, you know, watching movies and these cliches, but I guess, like, a parent letting go of their child and letting their child out into the world to find their independence. These films are our children. I mean, for me, it's not my first film. My first directorial debut was a film called Rotten Love that I did with Sarah Yeshki, a producing partner of mine and ex-girlfriend back in Sweden, whom we did our first feature, Saria, together, and then she wrote a short where I found the script called Rotten Love, and that was my directorial debut. But, you know, this is your directorial debut with the Red Hair Tie, and this is my first film since Rotten Love, you know, so it's, you want it to be out there to show, you know, that there's this weird thing as well, so much time has passed where you kind of look back on it and go, oh, what would I do differently, what would I do this, but you want to also showcase what you did and who you were at the time that you created it, even if it's not what you would make today or how you'd make it today or what you want to make next, but that's what the next project is for.
But I think, saying that, I think it's funny because I think that's kind of a similar thing we had with this podcast.
Right.
We've been having and discussing this podcast idea. I love podcasts, you love podcasts.
For years.
Like, for years we were like, oh, how should we do it? Who should we invite? Like, we had so many ideas, and you know, you look at the big ones that
and
are
you want
out
it to
there.
be so perfect that you end up doing nothing.
Nothing. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like the saying that, you know, like these memes and these sayings where it's like, something done that's finished is better than something perfect that never gets made.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where you and I got fed up with this year, where we're like, we have so many ideas, we have so many things we want to do, but we keep not doing them.
Yeah.
We keep not putting the gear.
I mean, even with the advent calendar image things, you know, like we had the idea and then you start going, oh God, is this going to look good? Is it going to... And we even said before putting out, like, oh, are they gonna get views and likes? Oh, but that doesn't matter, that's not why we're putting it out. But still, you put it out there and you look at it and you go, oh, it's only getting 10 likes and 6 of them are ourselves from our other pages. And no one really cares. I don't think people are swiping and looking at the other pictures, they're just seeing the advent calendar thing. But I'm like, yeah, but I want it to be an advent calendar thing, so you feel like you're opening it, because that's the concept, and I like the concept, and it's like, okay, but if you like the concept, just do it. And it's like, okay, just do it. And it is what it is, and then it's out there, and you just eventually you just got to commit to it and just do it.
Yeah, and I think that's what, and I think that's also kind of that thing of a way of like a bit of a start of a success, because like if you look at Robert Rodriguez and all these other big ones, they just did it.
Yeah,
they just
right.
and they keep saying just do it. Like
Yeah.
also you have social media people who are just on social media and doing their content and making money out of it. They also just say just do it. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter what. Like you have to have some sort of rhythm and you have to plan it out and da da da. But at the end of the day, as long as you're just consistent and just do it.
Well, that's how you learn. Because if you never start, you're never going to learn. If you don't, you learn from the mistakes. And, you know, what's scary is doing stuff, obviously, in the public eye. But also, if you start and you already have a massive audience, then if it is a bit crappy, then you're doing it crappy for a big audience. If you're doing it crappy and no one's really watching and it doesn't really matter, then you know, then it doesn't matter. Then it can get better, and you know, we're just doing it for ourselves, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to get these films out, see the response, and just kind of close the book and allow it's almost like letting a little bit of a weight off your chest so that you can allow space on your internal hard drive, as it were, to focus on new things and go, okay, they're done. They're done now. Especially considering what we want to do with the feature film, of combining these two characters, which is a whole different story and a bigger story that we can discuss later, which I would, you know.
But yeah, it is one of those off the chest and done, and we did it, and let's move on. Because like through also making those tick-offs and making those decisions of let's do this, I was able to make space to start doing that, writing out that outline for the feature film, writing outline for another short film I have. So it's like you suddenly do get space, and then you realize, okay, shit, I should have done this earlier. But it is what it is. You don't get that.
And I mean, so if you haven't worked it out yet, those of you who are potentially watching, or whether you're watching it live or after the fact, when this comes out, you know, today is the Sunday, the 7th of December 2025. It is an Advent. I can never figure out if the first Advent is the one in November. So today is the second of Advent. So it's the second of Advent, but it's our first episode, and we've done a week of posting our Advent calendar, and the Advent calendar is leading up to the premiere of our short films, The Gig and The Red Hair Tie. The Gig will premiere first at 10:30 a.m. London time on Christmas Eve, so the 24th of December, because you know you and I are Swedish and German, so the 24th is Christmas for us, but it's Christmas Eve for everyone else. And then basically a minute after mine finishes, yours premieres at 10:45 a.m. UK time on the 24th of December. So those of you who are interested, there will be eventually in one of the Advent calendar posts, there'll be like a QR code leading you to the premiere countdown, and we'll be doing one of these episodes each Sunday leading up to it. We'll see what we do after that, if we continue, but the plan is to definitely do one leading up to it, and we'll probably do one on Christmas Eve, maybe after it premieres, or maybe we'll go live as it premieres and watch it and kind of live react.
We haven't figured that out.
We haven't figured that out yet. We haven't really figured out anything with this. It's just...
We're just running with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is kind of nice for us, because I think we are planners. We are people who plan, who want to make it. Overthinkers in that way, but that doesn't get anything done sometimes.
Well, I think there's a benefit to both, and I think we'll find our way, and we're finding our way, and there's a right time and place for everything. Hopefully this is the right time and place, and we'll see how it goes. I'm not sure how long we've chatted for now, not particularly long, but I think that's probably all we have to say for today, and we'll be back again next Sunday.
And I also think if anyone is watching and has any questions, just send them to us on social media or something.
Sure.
We can maybe give some answers in our next chat.
Yeah. And yeah, until then, obviously keep an eye out for the advent calendar posts, and if you haven't figured it out yet on the date, you can swipe and you actually see something a little bit more interesting than just looking at the date. We are posting stills from the films, behind the scenes shots, and we'll be sharing little bits of insight to our journey, and we'll see what we talk about next week. So if you joined us, thank you very much. If you're watching this after the fact, hi, and if you enjoyed it, great, and if you didn't, that's also fine.
Also great.
I don't know.
We don't know how to end this, so
We can do the Joe Rogan thing. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
I don't know how to stop this. And now.